Okay, so in this particular tutorial, we're going over the setup process of OnPay, or what will soon be branded as PayLogic. So when you first log into your actual account, what you see is your dashboard. So what you're doing, it's up the very top on the left-hand side, quite clearly says dashboard, but it's a bit of an overview of your licensee, the payments that are coming in, payouts that are going out. Now, important thing to note, especially given we're currently quite early in the financial year, is you do have arrows at the top that you can go back to the previous financial year, or regardless of where you are, you might have to come forward to the current financial year, depending on just what you're looking at and what time of the year it is. On the dashboard, there's a few different bits and pieces that you'll be seeing. So at the top, I have a list of my product providers where I'm getting my payments through from. So it gives me a list of the product provider, gives me a few comments, so whether or not I'm expecting to receive the commission statement or revenue statement, via email, or whether I need to go and download it from the website. It also tells me a rough date of when I'm expecting to receive my payments in. And this is something that I'll show you shortly, how you can actually go and change all of those little bits and pieces. On the right-hand side, that's just a calendar. It tells me that on the 1st of month, I am expecting all of those fund managers to pay me. In the real world, within your licensee, you've probably got payments coming in all over the place. Because this is a training account, it's all just showing as the first, but that gives me also an opportunity to show you how to actually change that as well. Underneath this, we're seeing a monthly upload stream. So this is giving me a summary of the files that I have already uploaded. So had I started uploading statements for the current month, I would actually see a rundown of which providers I have already uploaded. Now, most of you'll know that that's actually kind of handy, because sometimes you'll look at your bank statement or a statement from a provider and go, oh, have I done that one or haven't I? So just know that this gives you a bit of a rundown about what date you've uploaded, where it's come from, if there was a file name, because sometimes they give us funny names on their files, and actually how much that statement was for. So it's a way of double checking and saying, have I already uploaded that one or not? Just so that you know not to go and double up on some of those statements. On the right-hand side of that, exactly the same concept as the one above it. It just shows you on what dates you have been doing any uploads to OnPay. Down below underneath that, once you start processing payouts, if you guys have probably already started doing that, but if you haven't, once you start processing the actual payouts to your different practices, that's going to give you a graph down the bottom and say, during this month, these are the payouts that you have actually processed. So that's just a little bit of an overview. So that's the dashboard giving you a summary of what's actually going on. So the next step after that, as I said, this particular session is more about the setup side of things. So where we're going to focus is on the left-hand side, there's actually a heading that says business setup. Now, quite a few different bits and pieces you can do in here. As you can see, there's a little bit of a list happening. But the top one, so I'm going to try and work through these from top to bottom. So the first one, product providers. Again, when you come on board, the guys on our support team have probably set up the majority of your product providers for you. But what you're going to want to do from time to time is potentially come in and add a new one. So you might have started using a new platform, a new fund manager, I don't know, a new share broker, whatever it might be. This is where you'd come to add in a new one that is not already on your list. Really, really easy. There's a button up in the top right-hand corner that says Product Provider Subscription. All you do is you click on that one and you'll go through and you'll find the name of whichever company it is that you're wanting to add on. Now, I have to try and find one that I don't already have on my list, which is always fun. So I might actually say Bridges. I don't think I've got them on there. So all I'm doing is going through and simply ticking on the new providers that I need to add to my list. There is an option to type in, so if it's one that starts with Z, so good old Zurich down the bottom of the list, you don't have to scroll through them all. You can just type in the name if that's what you're needing to do. It's not coming up for me because it's actually already in my list, but that just gives you an idea that you can type in the name. Once you've done that, you simply click on subscribe, and then whichever manager you've added gets added to this list. Now, because I went with a B, I'm thinking it will be on page, looks like page 3, maybe even further down. Where am I going? Bridges, there we go, up the top. So it's as simple as that to add a new fund manager or a new product provider. And what that means is that when you guys come back for the next tutorial, we'll see about uploading statements. It means that we know that you're expecting statements through from that particular product provider. Now, once you've done that, the next level up is setting up those different dates and payment methods from that particular fund manager. So exactly the same spot. So I'm still in that business setup and product providers. Only thing this time, I'm going to stick with the bridges train of thought. And on the right-hand side of that, I've got the link that says Go to Actions. Now, this does not need to be a new product provider that you're adding. You can go through and do this for all of the ones that are already in your system. So really simple. On the first screen, we're adding in the bits and pieces about that fund manager. So you might put in their phone number so that you know who to ring if you've not received a statement. You might put in their website, addresses, whatever else it might be about that particular product provider so that you know how to get in contact with them if you don't receive the revenue statement or if there's something wrong with it. So that's really simple. You just go in and you put in the bits and pieces and you say update. Just while we're on this screen, if you ever do come across a fund manager that you go, oh, I don't know why I've got them in the system, I've never used them or haven't used them for a long time, same spot, but you can click unsubscribe. Just keeps your account nice and tidy. Don't worry, you don't have to do that one. It's just there is something that you can do if you want to. Okay, the next one across, fee commission payment method. This is the one that's going to put in all of those different dates and tell you how and when you're getting statements and money from the different providers. So you simply click on fee commission payment method, open it up by clicking within the same row. In here, you get to choose and say, do they still send you an old-fashioned check in the mail or are they doing direct credit into your bank account? How often are you expecting to get payments from that fund manager? And then approximate payment date. I'm deliberately going to pop this one on the 10th so that when we go back to my dashboard, we'll see a little green highlight on a different date as opposed to everybody being on the 1st of the month. On the right-hand side of this, you're getting to say now where or how you get the statement from, in this case, Bridges. Now, just a little handy hint on this one. If you choose email, pop in here which email address the statement gets sent to. Because if it gets sent to the accounts team or to admin at wherever you are, you need to know where to go to find the statement. I know that was always a bugbear of mine, was trying to track it down as to who it got emailed to. So just pop in here who the statement is actually being emailed to. On the right-hand side, again, sticking in here, if you choose website, you can put a few more details in. So what is the website, username and password? The other thing that I've done in the past with this is down in under the notes area, I've put in like a mini procedure manual to say that when I get to that website, I need to click on the link that says, I know, commission and revenue or your clients or whatever it might be, because all of the different fund managers do hide their statements in different parts of their website. So you can use the notes section to give you prompts about where to go on the website to find the actual statements. Just makes it that little bit easier when you are going searching for them. Obviously, snail mail is not ideal because we like to have a CSV file to upload, but you can mark anything as being snail mail or even through a web service if that's how any of the providers give them to you. I don't know of any that still do come through that way these days, but just in case you can put it in there. The lucky last option we've got is zipped file. Now, off the top of my head, I'm just trying to think. I think it's Zurich, OnePath, and one of the colonial funds I think come through on a zipped file. What you can do within OnPay is if you choose zipped file, you can actually enter in here what the password is for the file. Because what happens with the zipped is they come in and generally you have to open them up, pop in your password and then resave the document as being unlocked. You don't need to do that for OnPay. You can quite simply put the zipped password in here. Then when you go to upload that Zurich statement or OnePath statement, we actually unlock it in the back end. So just bear that in mind that when you're going through all of your existing providers, it's really handy to fill in this statement source and any of the other information that you've got. Just bear in mind that when you do change anything, make sure you click on the update button so that everything actually gets stored and saved. The next tab across from product providers is define schema. You should not have to do this. If you ever come across a file that is not uploading into OnPay for yourself, send it straight through to the support team and they will manage the schema in the back end. It's there purely so that you can see what is being set up, so that if there is anything wrong, you can have a look and go, actually, you know what, this isn't just insurance, it could be anything. You know, there could be lots of different things. But again, You should not have to change anything in here at any point in time. The last thing that you're doing in under the product providers tab, because we're still in that one same tab, is uploaded files. So what you can do here is, I don't know, maybe once every 6 months, once a year when you're doing some more reporting, you can actually come in here and say, show me how much I've actually received from Bridges throughout this whole year. It gives you a rundown on what you've actually received. So just bear in mind that most of your product providers will have actually been set up, but come in to that business setup and the product providers and just go through and update things like the dates and where do the statements come from and all of those sorts of bits and pieces. It will make your life a lot easier, because even just as a simple example, if I now go back to my dashboard, I'm going to see, except because it's a training account, the Bridges one I don't think I actually did save properly, but it tells me when I'm actually receiving statements from. I didn't save the 10th now that I think that through. So just bear that in mind. There's a little tip for new players. Make sure you click on that update button, because mine's still showing as being the first. But it just means that it's added to the list to say, yes, I am expecting payments to come through from Bridges. Okay, so the next step that we're going to look under that business setup heading is licensee referrers. Now, it's really important to note that these are not your advisors. These are not your advisor groups. These are other people, other businesses that are referring business to your licensee. You might then palm them out to one of your practices, but just bear in mind that if you've got a referral sources that sends referrers to you, you can add them in here. Now, it is as simple as clicking on the add button up in the top right-hand corner and filling in all of the detail. Now, why would you do this? Some people generally ask. You're putting in all of the information, and then you can say that whenever a payment comes through that's been referred by Mr. Smith, he's to get 10% of that fee or 50% or whatever it might be. So as I said, it's very different to your advisor groups. It's really coming through and saying this person is referring business to me, and as a consequence, we are making payouts to that particular group. So I hope that one makes sense. Now, as I said, feel free, those of you that are watching this as a live webinar, you can jump in with questions if you do have any as we're going along. But referrers, it really is as easy as just filling in all of the information that you have about that particular person, or I should say other business. So the next one down is advisor groups. Now, these are the practices that you will be paying funds to. So what you're doing in here is, once again, you simply come in and you say that you're adding a new advisor group. Now, I'm going to add in my advisor logic group just to show you what it looks like, but effectively you're just going through and filling in all of the details that you do have. I won't bore you to tears by sitting here and typing in an address, but you can go through and put in all of the authorised rep dates, their ABN, and any other information that you've got about them. Hopefully you'd have just about all of it, but I don't think you need to see me typing in addresses. The other one that you can do is we can put in some split types. So about fees, are they paying a fixed split? Do they pay a tiered split? How is it that they're actually paying you? Depending then on what you're ticking on here, you will get your other options down the bottom. So you can actually say that you're doing from a particular date through to another date. So it might be that you reset on the 30th of June each year. What is the base split? So that's their minimum split levels that they're doing. You can even record what their estimated revenue is. So once again, it's just about doing all of the different data entry that you've got. So putting in how much you're paying them. When does that start? Now, sorry, I should say that this is why this one's it's saying from zero for the dollars up to, say, I don't know, you might say $85,000, they'll pay you 10%. Then you can add another layer, except I've just missed a mandatory field. I'm not quite sure where I'm missing, but you can go through and you can go and add the next layer and say that from 85,000 up to, I don't know, 150,000, it might be 5%. You simply continue through doing the data entry, and then you click on the save button. So that's how you go about setting up your advisor groups. And you'll see in mine, I've got a few different advisor groups in here. Once I'm in here, I can, of course, go to my actions, which is going to show me more details about that particular group. So I've got my name and my details. Who is my specific contact person? So sometimes there might be, half a dozen people work there, but you know who the actual contact person is. All of the other tabs across the top are letting you look at other bits and pieces of information. So what are their bank account details? So where should you be paying money into? Are there fixed fees that you're charging? If there are, you can add them in here. Now, fixed fees might be something like your PI cover fees. You might charge them for research. So if you've got a Lonsec or a Zenith license and you're letting them use it, but they're paying you X amount of dollars per pay period, those are the sorts of things that go in as fixed fees. The split fees is kind of like what we were just talking about a moment ago, where you're saying that, yep, we've got these split fees between a referrer and my advisor group. Advance and reserve, we will cover that more off on the next training session. But effectively what you can do is if you've got an advisor that says, look, I'm strapped for cash this week, can you give me an advance on that payout? You can come in here and set and say, yes, we are advancing you $5,000 this pay, so that when you do the next payout, PayLogic on pay knows to retain that amount because you've already paid it out early. You can also do reserves to say, I want to hold this amount back from the advisor this time because, I don't know, maybe they owe you some money, some fees or something like that. Advisors, underneath that, we will shortly see where you input your individual advisors. Once you do that, you actually link them back to the advisor group. So it's important to note that the advisor groups is the practice, not the individual advisors. So this is kind of the business name, if you want to call it that. And so under here, under the advisor tab, I can see just which advisors form a part of the Blossom advisor group. Don't hold me to the names of these. I didn't set up this training account, so don't know where they pulled the names from, but we've got Blossom and Rosie and Tootsie. Okay, so same concept in here. We're just seeing who the advisors are. Next, payout history. Really, really simple. I can see when I've made payments out to this particular group. Had I made payments, again, the date would be in green and I'd be able to click on it to see what the payments were made up of as to what went out on that particular date. On the home stretch of this one, guys, proportional fees, again, if I'm looking at any proportions to say, yes, we're retaining 10% because, I don't know, you're covering your licensing fees that way, that's going to show up here. It will show me the start and finish dates so that I can say, yep, we want to retain 50% for this next month because, I don't know, there's a big expense coming up or whatever it might be. We can do that under the proportion fees heading. And lucky last is just an email history. So again, once you get to the point of doing payouts, you'll be emailing statements out to the advisors or to the practices. Here we can see a list of which emails have been sent out to which practice. Okay, so that's advisor groups, and you're all being very quiet. Underneath that is the individual advisors. Now, I don't think I need to go into this one too much. It really is the same concept, that you come through and you add in any new advisors that you get. Once again, you just fill in as much detail as you possibly can or as what you have. And then what you will see, if I jump into one that I prepared earlier, I'll jump into Tootsie's file. I've then got the same kind of concept is once I've done my data entry, I then come back and simply say, yep, Tootsie should be assigned to the advisor group of Blossom. From there, I'm then back seeing all of the corporate entity type fields. So again, who is the contact person, who is the bank details, and so on and so forth. So it really is at this point just about the data entry, making sure that everything gets set up. Now, the last one in this particular section and the last one that I'm going to cover off on for today is clients. As a general rule, you won't need to come into this area. Well, you shouldn't need to come in here terribly often. What will happen here is as you're uploading statements from your fund managers or product providers, the clients will, by default, end up through the unmapped accounts being mapped and having a client file. When you come into here under the clients, you can actually add some clients in here. And as I said, hopefully you won't need to do that terribly often. This particular screen is more about saying, show me who Kaz's clients are, show me who Tootsie's clients are, give me a list of who her clients are and where the funds are coming from. Now, if any of these were unmapped, this is a spot that I could actually go through and I can remap them. So they may have been mapped through to Tootsie, and I'm now saying they should be mapped to Rosie, I can do the map to servicing advisors. If I've got referral sources set up, I can also map them to that referrer so that it makes sure that any referral fee is paid through to the right referring source as well. Now, as I said, a lot of this you don't or you shouldn't need to do terribly often, because as a part of the upload process is when you're mapping the clients to a particular advisor. So this is more about if they're being remapped. So it might be that Tootsie's left and Rosie's taken over, or whatever the situation might be. I can remap, or I can then attach them to a referral source as well if needed be. Just while we're in here, lucky last bit, go to action about the client. I can come through and look at more detail about the client. So I can just make sure and go, oh, okay, yes, they have got a referrer attached to them. Yes, I know what their names are. Now, I do apologise, this one's a bit of a random one. It's because I'm uploading dummy information. But from sometimes I will also enter in the client's details. Now, that will vary depending on the setup and the structure of your licence as to whether or not you need to have that information or whether it's going through to your actual advisors and to the practices. But just so you know, you can actually do all of that in here as well. Now, I understand that's probably a bit of information to take in today. It is all about the setup, which, as I said up the front, for a lot of you, that will have been done for the most part. This is more about so you know how to change those dates, fill in those passwords and where the statements are coming from and when you're expecting them, so that when you're on your dashboard, you do have a really good idea and a summary of when payments are coming in, where they're likely to be coming from, all of those sorts of things. It's also, I feel, important to know how you'd go about adding in a new group so that as your business grows, if your business grows, you can come in here and manage those as well. So really simple, as I said, you can add in an advisor group. More importantly, if somebody leaves your group, you can record that sort of information in as well, because there's things like authorised rep termination dates. So it's really about, in one regard, keeping your own CRM so that you know where your advisors sit and when payments are coming in and those sorts of things. So as I said, this one was a pretty painless one, so I hope that's helped you in some respects, and so that at least you now know how to go to the next step. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording, I hope, and that way what we can do, actually